The phone rang and a young woman said, "Hello, is Alexander home yet?" And I said, "No, but we are expecting him later today." And she said, "Do you know what airline he's flying?" And I said, "Yes, it's Pan Am 103. And she screamed out, "My God, haven't you heard? It exploded over Scotland."
Lockerbie was a scene of devastation.
There were bits of planes lying everywhere, landing gear, landing lights, just everything was in total chaos.
I got a phone call from the friend in England who she had been visiting, and he simply said, "Jeff, I put her on a plane."
We did not know whether this was simply a tragic accident or a crime, but we had to start off by assuming it was a crime, and we were dealing with a crime scene.
I said for some reason I need to go where Mike was found, and they took me out to Rosebank, where another main part of the fuselage had come down, and there were 54 bodies there. And amid all the smell of the fuel and all the debris and all the soldiers working in the pouring rain at 1:15, everyone stopped and they prayed with me.
Here in Dumfries, we are a very small police force with only 450 officers. They'd never ever faced anything of this scale before.
They had an 840 square mile range of debris, and they literally picked everything up.
The regional council asked for volunteers just to do menial tasks, to help out. There were over 1,500 people put their name down to volunteer. When the families came over at first, they were really taking a leap into the unknown. They were coming to a country that they didn't know, where people's almost a different language. They had this tremendous feeling that, their loved ones had died here and they didn't know why.
They met us at the train station and they took us everywhere, and they brought us to the bed and breakfast where we stayed, and they were like, "Is there anything you need? We'll do anything for you." And it was just like, you just felt like enveloped with love.
We went so early in time that the indentation that his body had made in the ground was still there. And it was just very quiet up there, very peaceful.
When the remains were recovered, they were taken to the town hall in Lockerbie. And the first thing we wanted to do was have them identified as quickly as we possibly could, so that they could be returned to their families. The officers who were on duty lined the streets of Lockerbie to say their farewells to them before they left the town. And they were joined by many members of the community as soon as they realised what was happening.
I knew that there was probably going to be some victims that would never be identified, and I was resigned to the fact that that's probably where we would be. We were contacted that we were going to be visited by two Scottish police officers, detective sergeants. The identifiable portion of my sister was a single fingerprint. That's why Patrick Ferguson came over, to break that difficult information to my family. He told me that the townspeople of Lockerbie were going to be forming a garden of remembrance in Drysdale Cemetery, and that if my family chose, Patty's remains could be buried there. And when I got to Lockerbie, Pat Ferguson was there. And he was a pallbearer for me, and he helped me lay my sister to rest. He didn't have to do that.
The many memorials that were done in Lockerbie were so well thought out and so carefully planned. Not everyone could get to Lockerbie and view the memorial sites. So the Scots came up with the idea of giving us a cairn that we could erect here in the United States. And the cairn is made of 270 stones, one to represent each victim lost on Pan Am Flight 103.
We have somewhere to go here, and it makes the connection. So it's a fitting tribute.
It became very important to the relatives to have back the clothing, the suitcases, all the items that our loved ones had with them. So the Scotts actually went through the task of washing and cleaning every single item that was found so that it could be identified and returned to the families.
Harvey Thompson, who was the policeman in charge of the property store, said, Peter, I think we found a jacket belonging to Alexander. And sure enough, here was this red Land's End windbreaker that he wore all the time. And I was amazed. I asked him how he knew that this was Alexander's. There was no name tag in it or anything like that. And he said, well, you know, there was a lot of undeveloped film and cameras that the kids had on the plane, and we developed it all, and we saw pictures of him in the jacket.
This is the jacket that I wear when I work in the studio, when I weld, and it gives me comfort. I just love having it on my body. There's a little hug from Alexander when I wear this jacket. Being a sculptor, I started to portray myself how it felt emotionally to lose a child. About 100 people have come to fall back to that very moment that they learned that their loved one had perished.
I remember doubling over because I had this terrible pain. And it was many, many months, if not years later, that I realized where that pain emanated, and it was a birthing pain. You know, when you're here again, you really go back to that time.
I hesitated at first to do it, and then I thought, I got to do it for them. I don't want it forgotten.
Passions, revels, joys, and dreams. Time passed so quick, or so it seems. We follow them so close behind and watch them go.
There's too much hate in this world, and this is what's left after an act of incredible hate.
One of the lasting memories for anyone who was at the scene was the reaction of the people of Lockerbie.
We were catapulted from a very sleepy market town to the world headlines. That wasn't of our own doing.
The people of Lockerbie took us under their wings in the wake of unspeakable horror and tragedy and gave us a reason to believe in our fellow mannequin.